I feel like I look so preppy in this.
You do. Hi guys. Hello.
Is it recording?
Yes.
I want it to be noted that I'm dressed like this because she forced me to.
Hello everyone. Today I'm here with my friend Tate, who is my classmate at the University of Chicago. So basically I've been getting a lot of questions in my DMs or in the comments about Uchicago admissions question, life at Uchicago. And so I thought I would make a video answering all of those questions. I posted on my Instagram, which is danny.brig, asking you guys to ask me more questions. And so I thought it would be fun to answer all of your questions with my friend Tate. We're both going into our second year at the University of Chicago. Cool. Just get right into it, yeah? First question, do test scores really matter? Uchicago is test optional, so will it hurt my application?
I would say they care a lot about the reasoning. It depends on where you come from. A lot of times the admissions officer knows the type of high school that you're coming from. They'll be comparing you to other students. So if you don't submit one, and there's someone else in your school that submits one, that might just be something that they consider. But I also just feel like they know the high schools very well, and like they know that sometimes those sorts of things don't actually reflect.
For those of you that don't know, when you apply to the University of Chicago, they don't require you to submit like an SAT or an ACT. You still can if you want to.
I submitted ACT.
Yeah, I submitted the SAT. I guess the important thing is that if you don't submit it, it's not really hurting you, but it's not helping you either.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good thing to not submit it unless like you really didn't do well. We have several friends that didn't submit their SAT or their ACT and they still got in.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible. If you're not a good test taker, it's something to consider. But I would say it's so hard to get in. There's so many different factors that having something like a good test score is another thing that will help you. So if you can, try to do well. You should still aim to get a high score that you can submit. But if you're not a good test taker, it's not the end of the world. You can still get in. Okay, there's the answer. How is academic rigor at Uchicago?
I think it's pretty hard. It also just depends like what type of high school you came from. Know that you won't really be able to slack. Like no matter what, I'd say the most important thing is to just be able to be organized and say this is when I'm working and this is when I'm not working. If you do that and you pick your classes right, it's manageable.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there is the benefit of like, we only have to take 3 to 4 classes out at a time. So that's really nice. I found it kind of comparable to how hard high school was, but I went to a ridiculously hard high school. I know some people though who had an easier time in high school, but then they got to Uchicago and they were kind of shocked at how stressful it was. It's not easy, like he said, you can't slack. You do have more free time in college, I think, than in high school.
I think it depends a huge amount what professors you have.
It depends on your major, I would say, too.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the majors are pretty hard, but there are definitely some that are just way harder. It also depends on, like, how you match your classes. So I wouldn't go taking, like, the 4 hardest classes you can think of at once. But if you don't have time management, you're gonna suffer a lot.
Yeah.
All around me are familiar faces.
Is the community at Uchicago more supportive or competitive?
I think it's very supportive. I remember that when I was touring Uchicago, one of the guides gave me this quote that they were touring a lot of other comparable schools, and that when they went there that they felt like those kids were in competition with each other. Whereas I feel like at Uchicago, a lot more kids are in competition with themselves. There's a lot of overachievers. They just want to do good things. They don't necessarily want to beat you in specific. And that'll depend on your major. I think it's they're a pretty open community.
There's shitty people everywhere you go. I think it's also about making sure you surround yourself by supportive people.
Yeah.
What kind of extracurricular activities stand out the most?
I'd say that it's really valuable to be able to sort of tell a story with your application. A quote that a lot of people in academic offices will say is that schools don't want a well-rounded kid, they want a well-rounded class. So I think it's a lot more important to be able to say like, oh, I did all of these things and this is why I chose them and this is how they're connected. Outside of that, if you can demonstrate that you take it seriously and hopefully also that you can like do those things well, I think that's a lot more important to the schools.
I said this in my How I Got Into Uchicago video, but I think what you said is exactly right. Just make sure that whatever you're doing for extracurricular activities, you're doing because you're passionate about it and because it's genuinely what you want to be doing. Because if you're doing it just because you think it'll look good on an application, they're gonna see right through that, especially a place like Uchicago. Like they really like the individual and they really want to see who you are. There's no extracurricular that's necessarily better than another. It just kind of depends on the story you're telling.
creating your own projects. Because if there's something that you really want to do and something that you want to study, if instead of attaching yourself to a club that already exists, you find a way to just go do that by yourself, I mean, not only does it look good for college, but it also helps with that, whatever you're trying to do for that topic in general, you know?
It's all about your intention at the end of the day. One thing I will say, I know so many kids who go on like trips to other countries and then
Don't do that.
and they do like service projects.
Don't do that.
Schools like hate that for some reason. Like they don't really care. Like they don't care about that one trip you took. What they care about is like, what is something that you consistently do that's special. So yeah. How's the food at Uchicago or Chicago in general?
It depends so much on what dining hall you're in. What are their names?
Baker, which is the farthest north.
North.
There's Bartlett, which is right in the center of campus. It's right next to a dorm called Max P.
And then there's Kathy at the bottom.
There's Kathy, which is south of campus, and it's right next to the South Commons.
And on a given day, one will be much better than the other.
Okay, it's pretty agreed upon that Kathy's the best food.
Some people say that, what's the North one again?
Baker.
Some people say
What?
Baker. I mean, just people are always biased about
Bro,
where
what
they're
are you
from,
talking about?
except if they're from Bartlett. Bartlett
Yeah,
people.
Bartlett is just the worst. But I would say the food, it can be, I mean, it really depends. And
Tough
they
for
cater
them.
to everyone in the dining hall.
Yeah.
So if you're kosher, if you're halal, if you're
Vegetarian.
vegetarian, vegan, like there's an option for you. And the desserts are really good. I think everyone pretty much agrees that
Yeah.
the desserts are always amazing.
Some places have like an ice cream bar, waffle machines.
We also have other options though. If you don't want to eat in a dining hall, there's a couple restaurants nearby. We also have several coffee shops that are student run.
Low-key expensive as hell though.
Yeah, they are expensive, but so is the dining fee.
Yeah. Also, there's like restaurants within walking distance.
So you can really kind of get whatever vibe you're going for in Hyde Park, which is the town that Uchicago's in. I will say Chicago as a city is famous for its food scene. It has really, really good food. Are you a barista? Yes, I'm a barista.
She never shuts up about it. You can make a counter for some of her other videos that are up, and she'll say I'm a barista like 9 times in 7 minutes.
This is the name of the cafe where I work. It's called Ex Libris, and like I said before, we have a bunch of student-run cafes on campus. The one I work at, Ex Libris, is in one of our libraries, which is called the Reg. It's right in the center of campus, but I would say it's a pretty prominent part of student life.
I remember I did my first stand-up comedy set at something that was hosted by one of the coffee shops, and they'll have like open mics for, you know, singer-songwriters, and there's just like a lot that goes on.
But Ex Libris is the best one on campus. It's the best one on the entire, at the University of Chicago. There's no question about that. If you go to Ex Libris and you say that you went there because of my YouTube, I will give you free coffee. If you show me you're subscribed, I will give you free coffee at Ex Libris. How's dorm life at Uchicago?
It was nice. I liked it. They put you in these houses, and it's kind of like a Hogwarts house, but it's only based on where you live. It's not as though they like put you in based on personality. You'll have a teacher there who will usually have a child, and they'll make you food once a week.
I mean, they try to create like a fun, united dorm life through these houses. So some houses have like a really strong house culture, and other houses like just don't at all. Also, I think dorm life really, really depends on which dorm. And they all have their unique personalities too. What's the quarter system like?
Rushed. You go through a lot of things very quickly. You cannot slack because there's not that much time to catch up. You kind of do things at like 1.5 times speed. Like you have tests so few times in a quarter that a lot of times, even if you're going to be having 2 or 3 of them, people will call them midterms because you don't have a lot of opportunities to get other grades. So testing is really important for a lot of classes.
One school year is 3 quarters.
It's
So we
3.
don't have semesters. We don't have 2 semesters. What that means is we're taking 3 to 4 classes per quarter, and every quarter is 10 weeks long. The 10th week is finals week. So it is really rushed, and that's part of what makes it so stressful. But on the flip side, we get to take less classes at a time, which is nice.
And you also get to move through a class quickly if you don't like it.
Okay, those were all the questions that I had.
I would say the last thing to think about is that a lot of times people click on videos like these and they just want to be told that like a student like them can get in. I think that's always true. I think whatever type of student you are, you should never feel like, oh, I can't apply to these schools, as long as you can sort of make a story and like make a case for yourself. A lot of times it's worth applying to schools that you feel are reaches, but also at the end of the day, it isn't always a meritocracy. Like, I knew kids who were so qualified and didn't get in. It might just be bad luck, it might just be your demographic. There's a whole many reasons. It might be because you're not a legacy and someone else looked like you, or even worse than you, but their dad donated $1 million. And it's unfortunate, but that is how it plays out. So I think the most important thing is to be an applicant that you would want to be for your own sake.
You have a higher chance of getting in if you apply early decision
Way
or
higher.
early action. I applied regular decision and I got in, and I was by no means the best applicant. One thing I would say is you just really have to make sure that if you're considering Uchicago, that it's really a place where you're going to be happy and where you're going to thrive, and these are really the kinds of people that you want to be surrounded by, because we're all pretty quirky and we're all pretty weird.
Not like the other schools.
Yeah, we're not. We're special. Chicago's so freaking cold.
It is cold as...
It is so cold. It snowed on Halloween.
Yeah, so be mentally prepared for that.
Yeah.
It's as bad and worse than people tell you it is.
Yeah, it's bad.
No matter where you end up, everybody, even at the colleges that you may or may not get into, will tell you that college is kind of what you make of it. It just kind of depends like what you're trying to get out of it. And I think the most important thing is to just know what you want to get out of school in general. And if you start thinking like that and less about I need to go to this specific school, you'll see how many more options open up for you.
That is so true. I think so many seniors in high school are just applying because they want to get into like the best name school, and they don't actually think about why they want to go to that school other than the fact that it just looks good. And that's not a reason to go to Uchicago at all. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any other questions or you want a part 2 or something, let me know in the comments.
Bring me back.
If you want Tate to come back for more videos, also let me know. I don't want Tate to come back. But thanks, oh my god, please do not. Thanks so much for watching this video.
Smash that like button.
Thanks so much to Tate for being in this video. If you want to follow him on social media, I will link all of his social media below. He makes some really cool music too. If there's any other college admission or Chicago related videos you want to see, or if there's a question we didn't answer, let me know. It really actually makes me so happy when I get a DM from one of my viewers. So for real. Thanks so much to everyone who asked a question. Bye.